Let Richard Spencer speak. What's up, guys? It's the Kaiju Conservative, and have I lost my mind? Am I outing myself as a supporter of white supremacist, white nationalist Nazi Richard Spencer, who can't muster more than a few dozen followers for an event, yet supposedly has this monolithic reach that extends into the deepest, darkest recesses of the hearts of every single solitary Republican out there? Well, no, ladies and gentlemen, that's not what I'm saying at all. Personally, as a conservative, I find Richard Spencer's ideas of white supremacy to be absolutely abhorrent, and I'd wager that 99.999% of conservatives out there feel the same way. In fact, I guarantee you that if you polled 100 conservatives on what they thought of Richard Spencer's ideals, 99 out of 100 of them would say, "What the hell are you talking about? Who is Richard Spencer? And no, I'm not a white supremacist, you stupid son of a bitch." The other one person would just stare at you blankly and turn around and walk away without even bothering to answer such a stupid question. Why am I bringing up Richard Spencer? Well, because Richard Spencer gave a speech this afternoon at the University of Florida, or at least he tried to. There was a massive protest outside of the event. Most of his supporters were barred from entering the venue where he was speaking. There were people punched, there were people assaulted, and Richard Spencer himself was shouted down. And he was unable to give a good portion of his speech, actually, because of that. And this is an acceptable state of affairs to the left, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that is right and natural because the First Amendment does not guarantee that you can say whatever you want without any fear of consequences. We heard this after Charlottesville, after the riots took place there, and liberals were gleefully doxing Nazis and white supremacists. They crowed, "You have the right to free speech, but you don't have the right to free speech without consequences." And they cheered and laughed and danced as white supremacists were identified and outed and fired for their beliefs. And again, this is something that is perfectly natural because the First Amendment does not guarantee that you can say whatever you want without fear of reprisals. What the First Amendment does, ladies and gentlemen, is it guarantees that you can say whatever you want up to a point. You see, you can say whatever you want in the United States of America. You can express your opinion freely as long as that opinion is acceptable to the majority. Once you express an opinion that is considered deviant to the majority, once you express an opinion that is controversial or that goes against what the majority wills, that is where your right to free speech ends. At that point, ladies and gentlemen, you are labeled a deviant, you are labeled a bigot, a racist, a white supremacist, whatever label you want to attach to it, and you are fair game. The First Amendment says that you can be assaulted, you can be punched, you can be killed if your opinions do not align with that of the majority. Once you express something that is outside the norm, then you become fair game. And this is a completely natural state of affairs for the left. This is completely acceptable to them. This is why they are so willing to punch Nazis, to punch Trump supporters, to punch anybody that disagrees with them, and why they shout down speakers that they do not like. Because the First Amendment says that they can do it. Except that's not what the First Amendment says, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody who's even bothered to glance at the Constitution knows that the First Amendment does indeed guarantee you the right to say whatever you want, short of calling for outright violence. You are allowed to express your opinion no matter how odious or controversial or hateful or bigoted that may be. People don't have to listen to you. People don't have to agree to you. There's nothing in the First Amendment that says any of that, but the First Amendment does say that you have to express your opinion. You have the right to express your opinion without fear of reprisals. And this is what the left does not get, ladies and gentlemen. They don't understand this. They don't like this idea that you can express anything, because if you're expressing these differing opinions, you're dangerous. You're upsetting the natural order. You're upsetting the predominant thinking of the majority. You're going against the grain, and that is something that is not natural, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we have Richard Spencer being shouted down. That's why we have Nazis being doxxed left and right whenever they go to a rally to express their opinions. That's why you are not free to say whatever you want in this country. Now, having said all that, I am going to commend the University of Florida for allowing Richard Spencer to speak. You see, originally they weren't going to let him speak. Originally they were going to tell him to go pound sand. However, a left-wing lawyer and the university president intervened, saying basically that as an institution, the University of Florida values the right to free speech, no matter how distasteful the speaker. And the fact that the University of Florida was essentially forced to spend over $500,000 on private security, and the fact that the city of Gainesville was forced to have such a heavy police presence, and the fact that Rick Scott, the governor of Florida, was forced to declare a state of emergency ahead of Richard Spencer's speech because of violence from leftists who do not like it when people they don't agree with speak. That right there is just a horrible state of affairs, and it just goes to show you just how far the value of freedom of speech, one of the most fundamental rights that people have died for many, many times in our history. It just goes to show the level of contempt that leftists have for the First Amendment. Richard Spencer needs to be allowed to speak. He needs to be allowed to express his ideas. He needs to be allowed to express those ideas without fear of being assaulted, fear of being shouted down, without being drowned out, because that is what happens in a free society, ladies and gentlemen. Or at least that's what's supposed to happen. And the fact that it's not the case, the fact that we have these consequences for people just expressing their opinion, should really disgust and frighten everybody in this country, because if we don't do anything about this, if we just let it go because, oh, it's just a Nazi, eventually we're going to lose the right to free speech entirely, and we'll be left sitting around wondering what the hell happened. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, remember, don't forget to hit that little like button and subscribe to my channel. Both of those things do help me out quite a bit. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that notification button so that way you know whenever I upload a brand new video, and I will see you all next time.